if I practice meditation, I sit, practice, I can connect very well to my nature, I can rest in my true nature. But in everyday life, I don't any longer feel any pull there. I feel kind of a little bit like in a hamster wheel, where everything's just, actions are just turning constantly. And it's very hard then, because when you felt that pull, when there's no pull like that, you feel the lack. And for me, it seems like two separate things. And I kind of wait for it to seep into your everyday life. But somehow it doesn't. The groove of being stuck in actions, in worry, gets deeper and deeper, and seems to be getting further away. I don't feel any kind of pull there. I feel a bit lost there. But I still am able to connect and rest in my true nature, but the two seem very far apart.
So when you go home after a busy day's work in your yoga studio or your office, or do you find it easy then just to go back to yourself? Is the impulse there then to go back to yourself?
I feel maybe it's resistance or tamas or heaviness, I don't know, but I'm lost in actions, and then I go home and collapse in a heap, and then I get up and I do it all again the next day. And it feels quite hard to find that space. So I've kind of called in a lot of favours and paid a lot of people to take over my responsibilities as such, to come here and find the space to do that. And it seems to be that the only way I can find that space is to leave my life and my responsibilities and come away.
Okay.
But yesterday and this morning's meditations seemed to be I could feel the worry and, that pace seeping into my meditation.
As Monday morning approaches.
Something like that, yeah. And I think, before, usually it's very clear for me either here or there, but it never seems to meet. So
So that's exactly why or one of the reasons why these retreats, why we come on these retreats, they are retreats from the demands and responsibilities of everyday life, where our attention is continually being required by the world in one way or another. So these retreats are a kind of, they provide a space or a circumstance where those demands are largely absent, and that enables us to go back and again to our true nature. The retreat setting is really just a placeholder for ourself. The real place of retreat, or the real place of refuge, is ourself. So you have to make yourself the place of retreat. Instead of thinking, I'm going to Wales to contact the peace and fulfillment that are innate in myself.
Emergency measure.
That's an emergency. It's fine to do that from time to time, but really the place you go to is not a place called Buckland Hall or any other, but the place you go to find this peace is yourself. Yourself must be the retreat center, the place of refuge. And it's quite natural that you have to come away from your home and your work to begin with to find it. And likewise, it's quite natural when you're at home that you may have to find sort of ring fence periods of time at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, where you do these mini retreats. You don't go to Wales, maybe you go and sit on your bed, close the door. That they're like mini retreats, so you've provided these little mini retreats for yourself at the beginning and the end of the day. But then you want to provide mini retreats throughout the day. So here you come for a week-long retreat. The mini retreats you provide for yourself at the beginning and the end of the day may just last 20 minutes. But then the mini retreats in between emails, in between phone calls, in between customers, in between activities, these may only last 2 minutes. But in those 2 minutes, you go to the same place that you go to in the mini retreats, which is the same place you go to on these retreats in Wales. And in the end, you have this sense that the place you go to in all these retreats and mini retreats and mini retreats, that place is actually, it runs underneath everything. It's although you only drop into it from time to time, it's always there, underneath, or in the background of your experience. And sometimes you only have a few moments to go there. So in between an email or a phone call or a thought, in between two thoughts, you just go there until in time you don't feel it's a place you visit from time to time, but it is the constant background of your experience. Now you begin to feel it not just in between all your thoughts and activities, but during your thoughts and activities as their background. So this, you don't just feel peace on retreat in Wales, you don't just feel peace at your 20-minute meditation sessions at the beginning and the end of the day, not just in your mini sessions but you feel this peace, the constant background or the context of your experience. It's always happening against this backdrop of peace. And then the peace in the background begins to filter into the foreground of your experience. It overflows into your activities and relationships.
Yeah, when you feel the strong pull towards that consciousness, everything kind of feels easy. So if you're in more of a restricted environment, SRAM type environment, I spent a lot of time, in these kind of environments where everything is quite contained and it feels easy.
Yes.
And the pull, there's a very strong pull there. But when you're kind of on your own and you don't feel any kind of pull, it's quite hard.
Yes. Yes, but the peace that is dependent upon certain particular circumstances is a fragile peace.
Yeah,
it's not yet the peace of your true nature. It is a peaceful state. It's perfectly valid to have peaceful states, but it is a peaceful state. It is not yet the peace of your true nature. Your peace of your true nature is available 24/7 in the ashram, in the office, in the yoga studio, while you're cooking dinner, while you're doing the shopping, while you're at the dentist, whatever you're doing, it's there in the background of your experience.
And is it the more frequent connection with your true nature that provides the pull towards your true nature?
Well, your true nature, you are always either experiencing your true nature or feeling its pull. Those are the only two options. So if you're not feeling your true nature and its innate peace and happiness, that is the experience called unhappiness.
Okay, so the lack of is actually the pull.
The lack of is the pull, exactly.
Okay, because I can definitely feel that.
In that case, the lack of, whenever you feel the slightest lack of peace or happiness, that is the pull of your true nature. Okay. It may not formulate itself as the thought, I want to meditate, but it is the pull of your true nature saying, please, come back to me.
So that is your call, really,
that's your call. It is yourself calling itself back to itself, saying, please, you haven't visited me for a long time, come back.
Okay, it's really calling quite a lot then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And just one more thing. It's not a by chance that you no longer find yourself in circumstances where you can go away regularly to an ashram or retreat. That was needed in the early days. But now yourself is saying to you, I want you to find me in everyday circumstances. So I'm no longer going to afford you the opportunity to go away on retreat all the time or to an ashram. That was what was necessary in order to become acquainted with me to begin with. But now I have withdrawn that possibility because I want you to find me in everyday life.
I just had a question about the nature of awareness, of whether it's with or without qualities. when there's an abidance in awareness, it feels like it's just peace and expansiveness. And so I don't know if those are qualities or not, because at other times I thought you said awareness is without qualities.
Yes, you're right. Awareness has no qualities of its own. The way we express awareness not having any finite qualities. When we say awareness has no finite qualities, that is a negative formulation of the nature of awareness. We're saying what it is not. We are not saying what it is. So we're saying awareness has no finite qualities. But the positive way of saying exactly the same statement is to say awareness is infinite. Now, awareness is infinite sounds like an assertion of what awareness is, but the word infinite means not finite. So we're not really asserting a quality of consciousness. We are simply stating in a positive way its absence of qualities. When we say awareness is eternal, it sounds like being eternal is a quality of consciousness. No, eternal just means not in time. When we say the nature of awareness is peace, peace, as you rightly say, seems to be a quality of awareness. What we really mean is awareness is imperturbable. That would be more accurate. There is no disturbance in awareness. But that's a clumsy way of saying it. A more economical way of saying it is just to say peace is the nature of awareness.
And the sort of feeling of peace is that...
That is a reflection of the qualitylessness of awareness in your finite mind.
So it's still not is there still another stage back where there's not even the feeling of peace, it's just...
There's just peace.
Yeah, which is sort of nothingness in a way. It's not even a feeling, is it?
It's the absence of the slightest disturbance. So it's not a peaceful state of the mind, because a peaceful state of the mind is something that alternates with disturbed states of mind. It is the peace that is the background of peaceful and disturbed states of mind.
In the meditation this morning, the second one, I wanted to not come from my mind, I wanted to come from awareness. So I said I wanted to be abiding in presence. And so when I asked when I got to that place of presence, no time, no place, no form, no nothing, and there was just a void, a huge void. It just got bigger and bigger. And that's how it stayed. It was just a void. It wasn't a place I wanted to be. It wasn't peace. It wasn't joy. It wasn't happiness. It was absolutely nothing. And so I wondered if I was in resistance to something, and that's why it was such a bleak place, or if I was afraid of being annihilated. But that didn't seem right either. It was just nothing. So I wondered, was it formless awareness in which everything is happening, experience? And is that how happiness and peace of mind occur? From an illusion? Or just from this endless void? Nothing.
Well, if it had really been nothing, it wouldn't have been a bleak place. It would have had no qualities to it at all. But the fact that you describe it as a bleak place, a place that you don't like, suggests that it wasn't quite nothing. If there had really been no objective experience then, what would have been unpleasant about it, and for whom? It would have just been the presence of awareness all alone by itself. But whatever it was, you were afraid to go there. You refer to it as being bleak. There was some resistance in you to it. So what was it in you that was saying, I don't like this?
It felt like it had no future. It felt like it was just...
Well, that's true. So for the apparently separate self, the possibility that there is only now, that there is no future, is a pretty daunting prospect, because the separate self lives, in fact, the separate self, the only place the separate self cannot be is the now. The separate self always, by definition, lives either in the past or the future. So for the separate self, for the one who says, I don't like it, yes, that it would be bleak to be faced with the possibility of not having a future, because that would be the equivalent of death.
So it was both of those things.
So it was the separate self in you feeling, I don't want to come to an end. If you take away my future, then there's no possibility for me to continue. The separate self is always continuing in time, always in a state of becoming. So it was a sense of separation in you, the sense of being a temporary finite self that was resisting dissolving. But at the same time, strangely, the reason you are here and the reason you come back here, this is not the first time you've been here, the reason you keep coming back here is precisely because the one thing you want in your life more than anything else is to be divested of everything that keeps you separate, temporary and finite. In other words, you long for happiness. You long to lose the sense of separation. Of course, when you just like the moth who longs for the flame, but when it comes just a couple of inches away from the flame, it suddenly realizes for the first time, if I get what I want, I'm going to die. So the separate self has been longing for happiness all its life, and thinks that it can. The separate self believes that it can have happiness or experience happiness. No, happiness is the absence of the separate self. It is the dissolution of the sense of separation. That's what this experience of happiness is. So it's only your idea of yourself, that this thought and feeling made self, the self that is made out of thoughts, feelings, images, that is going to dissolve in this understanding. But your essential self, is not going to dissolve. On the contrary, it's going to be revealed. And above all, it's innate peace and happiness.
Well, those are all things I've told myself.
But
it doesn't seem to make any difference.
What?
It doesn't seem to make any difference.
But you keep coming back here.
Yes.
Why?
Because it hasn't, all the things I've been telling myself haven't made any difference. I mean, I know all these things intellectually, but for some reason, I'm not able to dissolve that old...
But if I were to ask you now, just take the sense of being myself. Just feel to yourself. Feel myself, or being myself. And then just go to the experience that corresponds with those words, the words being myself. Where do you go? Tell us about where you go.
I think the closest I've come to that would have to be when I go to the now, go to the living in the now.
Okay, perfect.
Here and now.
You come to the here and now, and in the here and now there is no future, yes?
Right.
So it's not too bad in the here and
No.
You're perfectly comfortable.
But in the meditation this morning, I went to the here and now, and it was void.
No, but if you go now to the experience of being myself, you're right. You come into the now. You don't look for yourself in the future, or when you go to the experience of being myself, you don't refer to the past. The experience of being myself is an experience that happens now, so it brings you into the now. Tell us what else you find when you just go to the experience of being myself.
I guess there's no judgment.
Yes, no judgment. Yeah. Is it peaceful there?
Yes.
And do you lack anything there? What's the common name for the absence of lack? A little bit more, a bit juicier than that.
Happiness?
Yeah.
But I don't really even want, I'm not even asking for that much, I just want peace of mind.
Well, yeah, okay, all right. Well, in that case, stick with peace of mind. Remember, when I use the word happiness, the reason I use the word happiness is it's just a common name for peace of mind. That is not wanting anything, being happy with what is. In other words, the absence of the sense of lack, or the ease of being. Peace of mind, peace and happiness, they're the same thing. That's the place to go to. And it's not, is it frightening going to your being?
I didn't think so, but...
But when you go there now, if you go there now, you said it's peaceful there, you said it's
temporary.
It's now. Is it temporary? Are you sure? If you imagine any time during the day asking yourself the question, just saying to yourself, being myself at any time of the day, and you went to that experience, would it not always be there for you? Would not your own being always be there for you?
Yes, it would have to be.
It would have to be. Whatever circumstance you find yourself in, if you just paused, said to yourself, being myself, or I am, and then you went in yourself to the experience to which those words appear, you'd always go to this place that you have just described. It would always be now. It would always be at peace. There'd always be no lack in it. So it's not temporary. You may not notice it all the time because you're busy with your thoughts and feelings, but whenever it's like the friend that is always with you, just behind you. You know how a young child, to begin with, the infant is always with its mother, but in time, after it's learned to walk, it begins to get adventurous and go off. And there's a stage, I can't remember what age it is, about 2 or so, when the infant has learned to walk, and for the first time the infant turns away from its mother and begins to adventure. The big step, the first time in its life it turns away from its mother, and it takes a few paces, and then it just stops. Anyone who's had a child probably noticed this. So it stops, and it turns back just to check that its mother's there. And then it carries on, then 4 or 5 more paces, and then 2 weeks later it goes for a whole minute venturing off into the garden or wherever it is, and then occasionally looks back to check that its mother is there. And then in time, those times, hopefully, they extend longer and longer until the child no longer needs to look back. But it's the same thing. If you look back, you look into yourself, you'll always find this loving presence behind you. The fact that you're not always looking at it or not always aware of it is a different matter. The child is not always looking at the mother, but whenever the child turns around, the mother is there. And whenever you look inside, this inherently peaceful being is there, and it's not frightening to go there. On the contrary, it's the place of refuge in yourself. It's the one place you can be absolutely certain of that will never let you down, will always be there. It's always safe, always welcoming, always peaceful. It's your safety. It's the only security there is in life. It's your refuge. It's the place of peace. And don't take my word for it. Check it out. Whenever you want, you can check it out. And if you're doing a meditation and you find yourself getting into a state that feels dark or cold or bleak, just open your eyes. Just stop. Just stand up. You don't have to go to some dark, bleak void. You go to yourself, your being. It's full of peace. And you know that from your experience.
It just feels like I have to really work on that.
Well, okay, if you have to work on it, then work on it. Mm-hmm. Then just spend a little bit of time, from time to time, just tracing your way back to yourself. You didn't seem to work too hard when I asked you. It took you a few moments, but compared to the labor of being a separate self and maintaining the sense of a separate self, to go to your own being is not much work. But if it feels like a bit of effort, then just make the effort to go there from time to time.
Yes, when you compare the two, you're absolutely right. It takes more effort to
And it's so exhausting to maintain the sense of separation through a little bit of effort just to take the thought I and to go to your being. It's not much.
Thank you.